I had always considered running at night the perfect way to escape the pressures of daily life. I live in a quiet area, far from the hustle and bustle of the city. Most of my friends preferred running in the morning, but I loved running at night. The streets were quiet, the air was cool, and everything felt as if it belonged solely to me. It was my way of escaping. On a cold night in October, I decided to run farther than usual. I chose to go to the old dirt trail that passed through the forest. The trail was long, and its isolation made it the perfect place for a nighttime run. The sun had set, and fog began to seep into the path, making it appear even more mysterious. Everything was quiet. The sound of my footsteps echoed in my ears, and my breathing filled the surrounding air. But after a short distance, I started hearing footsteps behind me. At first, I thought it was just the echo of my own steps, but as time went on, I began to feel something strange. The sound was in sync with my footsteps. There was someone else running behind me, but there was something odd about it. The footsteps were incredibly precise, perfectly matching mine. If I slowed down, the other person slowed down too. If I sped up, so did they. I started feeling uneasy, but I tried to ignore it. I kept running until I reached a point where the path split into two directions. At that moment, I suddenly stopped. There was a massive tree on the side of the path, and when I turned to look at it, I caught a glimpse of something hiding behind it. I couldn't tell what it was, but there was an indistinct shape moving quickly. My heart began to race, but I tried to ignore what I saw and decided to keep running. However, the sound behind me continued to follow. Its pace quickened, as if someone was tailing me closely. I felt as though I wasn't alone in this dark place, and that something strange was watching me. At that moment, I decided to return to the main road. I was a short distance from the intersection, and there was a faint light on the horizon that gave me hope of survival. But when I turned around, the shadow was there. It was a very tall person, wearing a dark jacket, and they were smiling a strange smile. I couldn't make out their face. The shadow was far too large for its natural size, and its edges were blurry, as though gravity didn't affect it. And when it began to move toward me, I froze in place, unable to move. It was slowly advancing, grinning in a distorted way as it came closer and closer. I was in a state of panic, and the closer it got to me, the more I felt the ground beneath my feet begin to shift, as if the whole place was closing in on me. I tried to run, but my legs felt too heavy, as if I were trapped in one spot. "You're not supposed to be here after dark." The voice stopped suddenly. The last word echoed in my ears as if it were part of a dark dream. After that, I ran with all my strength, as fast as I could, through the dark path toward the main road. I could hear its laughter behind me, growing louder the faster I ran. I felt as though I was about to lose hope, but with every step, I felt like I was fleeing from something inhuman. The air became denser, and the darkness around me was more suffocating than ever. Everything was becoming more mysterious, as if the forest itself was consuming me, like I was running inside a nightmare. I felt as though I had returned to the same point where I started, but somehow I was running in an endless circle. When I reached the main road, the shadow had disappeared, but the laughter didn't. I could still hear it echoing in my head, deep in my mind. I jumped to the other side, ran quickly toward my house, and didn't stop until I crossed the threshold. Minutes passed as I stood at the door, catching my breath, trying to understand what had happened. But at that moment, I heard the sound again. The footsteps, slowly approaching the door, as if that thing was still watching me. I closed my eyes and grabbed the doorknob, but when I opened my eyes again, the laughter filled the air. This time, I was sure. I'm not alone. If you are here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with our upcoming scary stories. We need your support. Please share these stories with your friends and family. I was in 11th grade, training for the annual fall marathon. I loved running the hills that surrounded our area, dirt trails winding through thick woods, then suddenly opening up to wide, empty fields called the Fields of Echo. Weird name, right? Locals called it that because when you shout out there, the echo always comes back sounding like someone's answering. One quiet autumn evening, I decided to take the longest trail before sunset. The air was crisp, the sky glowing orange, and everything smelled like dead leaves. It was peaceful, at first. About 3 miles in, I noticed the forest had gone unnaturally silent. No birds, no wind, no squirrels darting through the brush, just my breath and my footsteps. Then I heard other footsteps, heavy, slow, almost syncing with mine. I froze. The sound stopped. I glanced back. Nothing. The trail behind me was completely empty. I kept running, faster now. Minutes later, there it was again. Heavy steps, this time closer, but every time I stopped, so did the sound. Maybe it's just in my head, I told myself, but my gut didn't agree. Half a mile later, I reached the wide open field. Usually that brought a feeling of relief, more space, less danger, but not that day. About 300 yards away, someone was standing there. Tall, thin, wrapped in a long gray cloak or blanket. No visible face, no movement, just standing. Maybe a farmer, I thought. A hunter? But no one around here dressed like that. I decided to change course and loop around him from a distance. The moment I shifted direction, he did too, matching me. I started to run. I veered the other way. He mirrored me again. There were no footsteps, no breathing. But his gaze, or whatever was behind that cloak, never left me. I made it to the far edge of the field, near an old barbed wire fence that dropped into a wooded ravine. I leapt over it, sliding downhill through low branches. That's when I tripped and fell hard. Lying on the forest floor, chest heaving, I realized I still heard nothing. No footsteps, no breathing, just silence. I looked up, and there he was, at the top of the hill looking down at me, still standing, closer now. But this time, he wasn't standing on the ground. He was hovering, no shadow, no sound, no motion, just floating, with that same fixed stare. I scrambled to my feet and ran like hell, through thorns, ducking branches, taking shortcuts I'd never dared before. Finally, I hit the main road. Tears were streaming. My clothes were torn. But I didn't stop until I reached home. I never told anyone. But from that day on, I never ran toward the Fields of Echo again. And every night at sunset, when I open my window, I hear footsteps, heavy ones, but no one's ever there. It was supposed to be just another regular morning jog. I had been running in the same park for years, alone, with nothing more than my thoughts and the rhythmic pounding of my sneakers against the pavement. The park was quiet, except for the occasional jogger or dog walker. But that morning, something was off. I had just passed the old oak tree near the lake when I noticed something strange out of the corner of my eye. a man sitting on one of the benches. He was wearing a dark hoodie, and his face was obscured, even though it was still early and the sun had just begun to rise. His posture was strange. His back was too straight, almost stiff, like he was waiting for something or someone. I didn't think much of it at first. I was focused on my pace, pushing myself harder than usual because I was training for an upcoming marathon. But as I looped around the lake and ran past the bench again, I noticed something else. A trail of blood footprints. At first, I thought it was just the early morning dew. But no, these were unmistakably bloodstains. My heart started to race faster than my legs, and I tried to shake off the unease that was creeping into my mind. I decided to slow down and keep my distance, but as I neared the bench once more, I could see that the man was still there, his head tilted forward now, like he was looking down at something. That's when I saw it. Lying beside the bench, a woman's body. She was covered in a thin sheet of what I realized too late was her own blood. My blood ran cold. I tried to back away, but it was too late. The man's head snapped up, and for a split second I saw his eyes. Empty, cold, calculating. He didn't speak, but he didn't need to. His smile was all I needed to see. I turned and ran. I didn't know if he was chasing me or not. All I knew was that I had to get away. I pushed myself harder, my feet pounding the pavement, faster than I'd ever run in my life. I could hear my heart in my ears, my breath coming in ragged gasps, but I couldn't stop. I reached the end of the park, where the trees met the street, and I finally allowed myself to glance over my shoulder. Nothing. Just the empty path behind me and the sun rising higher, casting a long shadow on the ground. I didn't know if I was just imagining the whole thing, if it was a nightmare or something worse. But the scene was burned into my mind. I tried to tell the police later, but they didn't believe me. They said I was just tired from the run. It's been months since that day, and I still jog in that park every morning. But I never go near the old oak tree. Every time I pass by, I can still feel his eyes on me. And sometimes, just sometimes, I think I hear footsteps behind me. But when I turn around, there's never anyone there. I've always enjoyed working out and going for a run every now and then. In the big city where I live, everything is fast and loud. But at night, I used to love running along the trails hidden from view. It made me feel like I was vanishing from the world, just one person running through the void. That night, I decided to run more than usual. It was late, and the streets were empty. I made my way to a forest trail near the edge of the city. It's a well-known spot for local runners, but rarely used at night. At first, it was just a passing thought, but something strange pushed me to try it. The air was cold, with a light breeze rustling the leaves on the ground. The tall trees blocked the moonlight, wrapping everything in darkness and shadows. I started off jogging slowly, soaking in the silence. But over time, I began to feel something strange. The first thing I noticed was the silence. In places like this, I usually hear night animals or even the wind through the trees. But tonight, everything was still. Nothing but the sound of my footsteps on the damp ground. Then, suddenly, I felt something else. There was someone else running behind me. At first, I thought it was just the echo of my own steps. But the longer I listened, the clearer it became. Heavy footsteps, matching mine. I slowed down slightly to hear better, and the sound was still there. I stopped abruptly and glanced behind me, but there was nothing there. Everything was just as quiet as before. A strange feeling grew in my gut, but I decided to keep running. Maybe it was all in my head, but with every new step, the footsteps behind me drew closer and closer. The sound was getting nearer, and at moments I swore I could hear it right next to my ear. My heart started pounding, and my legs carried me forward like I couldn't stop. The long forest trail wasn't easy. Thick trees blocked my vision, and the darkness only grew deeper with each step. Still, I kept running, my mind spinning with questions. Why was this person following me? Was it just another runner using the same trail? Then something happened that made me stop again. I was running fast, and when I looked up suddenly, I saw something ahead in the distance. A tall shadow, standing in the middle of the trail, completely still. It was larger than a normal person, as if it stretched up into the sky. I didn't know what to do. I had no time to think. I considered turning back. But that's when I heard the sounds behind me again. Very close now, rushing toward me. I looked back at the shadow, and suddenly, it began to move. It didn't move like a human. It glided across the ground, as if its body didn't even touch the earth, moving silently, like a wind that made no sound. In that moment, I screamed inside, but I couldn't even make a sound. I just ran with everything I had. The faster I ran, the more it chased me, and the louder the noises behind me became. Laughter echoed from somewhere behind, a grim, twisted laughter, filled with madness and mockery. A sound that made my blood turn cold. The ground beneath my feet started to change. I felt like I wasn't on the trail anymore. The earth below began to pull at me, like it was turning into mud. When I looked down, I saw it swallowing my feet in a strange way, like it was trying to drag me under. I ran until I felt like I couldn't breathe. But just then, I saw light in the distance. Relief filled me. I was close to getting out of the forest. But as I got closer, the footsteps behind me grew faster, and the sound came terrifyingly near. I pushed with everything I had left, sprinting toward the light. And when I finally broke out onto the main road, I felt safe. I stopped, took a deep breath, and everything around me was quiet again. But just as I caught my breath, I heard it again behind me, closer than ever before. I didn't look back. I just ran all the way home, slammed the door behind me, and locked it with all my strength. But the laughter, it followed me. It was in my head, echoing through every corner of my room. The one thing that still echoes in my mind, the voice that whispered, "You'll never escape."